92. Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Friday. It means we're brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Back in the captain's chair after a couple days off. Appreciate Taylor Sharp for jumping in yesterday and piloting the ship for me. Glad to be back, and it's just one day, and then you go back to a weekend. So we can handle that. We'll be with you for the next 2 hours, and we are fired up for it. Got Jordan Kitchens and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Preston Guy with us in 15 minutes talking some Tiger football. Got to get you ready for the NFL weekend to come. I want to talk about Jim Larrañaga up and quitting in December on a college basketball program. That's interesting. And then we got to preview LSU basketball against Mississippi Valley State. We'll talk Saints and Raiders as well. Plenty to do here on this Friday, and fired up to be here. If you're not working, thanks for locking us in. If you are, we'll get you to the finish line here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. The LSU Tigers are leaving on a jet plane as we speak to Houston, Texas to start preparations for the Texas Bowl, which will be on New Year's Eve in the afternoon coming up next Tuesday. They'll play the Baylor Bears, who are winners of 6 in a row. And I think maybe the most interesting talking point here from an LSU perspective is the offensive line. We know that Will Campbell and Emory Jones have decided to forego the rest of their eligibility and get ready for the National Football League. I do not expect Garrett Dellinger to play in this game coming up on Tuesday. He's been coming back from that high ankle sprain, and I just don't know that he's going to give that a go. Miles Frazier has announced that he will be back for this game, and we're going to see, obviously, DJ Chester has been LSU's starting center the entire year. My expectation for this LSU offensive line is that Tyree Adams will play left tackle. We told you in fall camp that he was the 6th man on this LSU offensive line. I think he's the guy they're most comfortable with at left tackle. I think you'll see him there. The 2 guard spots, I believe, will be occupied by Paul Mabenga, who we saw filling in for Garrett Dellinger at the end of the season for 3 games. And then either Cohen Eccles or Bo Bordelon are your likely options there. DJ Chester will be your center, and Miles Frazier I expect to bump out and play right tackle in this game. It's a good opportunity for him, kind of put that on tape for NFL scouts that could be interested. He's a guard right now at the college level and probably is at the NFL level as well. But if he shows some versatility, that's always a good thing when the NFL is looking to put together a roster. So that's the group that I expect to see. And it's going to be interesting to see how they handle themselves, because LSU's offensive line, while maybe not as dominant as we had projected in August, was good this year in pass protection. LSU did a good job protecting the passer. Yes, Texas A&M got after him there a little bit in the second half. Yes, Garrett Nussmeier went down a few times in the Alabama game. Okay, yeah, Florida got to him late in that game as well. It wasn't a perfect year by the LSU offensive line, but I promise you, those guys can pass protect, and they did a really good job the majority of the year in pass protection. You want to talk about the run game? I'm here to talk about the run game. It was not great, and we know that. But those guys were good in pass protection. We'll see what this next group looks like. We have lauded Brad Davis for a couple of years now after inheriting a terrible situation on LSU's offensive line and working to revamp that. It started with a couple of guys starting as true freshmen, and Will Campbell and Emory Jones, and kind of rode them for 3 years. You went to the transfer portal and added Miles Frazier, who you got to start for 3 years. Garrett Dellinger was a 4-star recruit you brought in, and that offensive line came together and was very good for the majority of this year, as I said. But what's next? What is waiting in the wings? And you look at this game, and it'll be an indication of how far along these young 4- and 5-star players are. DJ Chester is a 4-star. Cohen Eccles is a 4-star. Talk about Paul Mabenga, 4-star. Tyree Adams, 4-star. Weston Davis, 5-star. Ori Williams, 4-star. Like, you've brought in a lot of high-level players, top 100 type guys. It's their time to go play. And I'm curious just how noticeable taking out those All-Americans and potential first and second round draft picks, second day draft picks, and plugging in these young pups, these true and redshirt freshmen who haven't been asked to do anything in their year or two on campus. The goal likely for LSU will be to run the football a little bit early. I know I can see you all rolling your eyes in the back of your head going, run the ball. This team can't run the ball. Well, they didn't run the ball well enough against Texas A&M. They didn't run the ball well enough against Alabama. They didn't run the ball well enough against USC. But there were points in the season where they did run the ball well. They did run the ball well against a good front at South Carolina. They did run the ball well against a good front at Oklahoma. They have at times run the ball pretty well, and I expect them to try to do that early. What you really don't want to do is to get into some 3rd and 10s, 2nd and 11s with tackles out there that haven't played very much. Tyree Adams hasn't played very much. Miles Frazier hasn't played tackle in his career. Asking those guys to pass protect continuously in obvious passing situations is not advantageous for LSU in any way, shape, or form. You had Emory Jones and Will Campbell out there. Sure, those guys can hold up. Those guys can handle themselves. I don't want that situation to present itself with these guys, especially early in the game. I expect LSU to run the ball early and often, and that is something that has worked against Baylor this year. Baylor finished 11th in the Big 12, which is 16 teams. They finished 11th in rushing defense. Listen to some of these numbers that Baylor has allowed on the ground. They allowed 292 yards. Sorry, that was total offense. Over to rushing. They allowed 170 yards on the ground to Utah. They allowed Air Force to run for 193 yards. They allowed Iowa State to run for 265. They allowed Texas Tech to run for $150. West Virginia ran it for 262 yards on this Baylor team. And then just in the season finale against Kansas, the Jayhawks ran for 211 yards. Caden Durham is got to be, I haven't talked to Caden, but he's got to be as healthy as he's been since he got hurt in that game. Who was that against? He got hurt in the last non-conference game.
Was it South Alabama?
Against South Alabama, that is correct. He dislocated those toes, and he didn't miss a lot of time, but he had an insert put into his shoe, and he got run down from behind a couple times. Like, I don't think Caden Durham was 100% healthy. And I don't know if he's 100% healthy this week, but you got to think having a month off can only help. And so I think Caden Durham should be as healthy as he's been. You'll get Josh Williams fighting as hard as he's fought for these 6 years. And I would expect LSU to come out and try to run the ball at Baylor. And if they can do that, everything kind of falls into place, and you should be efficient. If they can't, that could be an issue with those young pups trying to pass protect. Now, Garrett Nussmeier's, got a good head on his shoulders, and he can get the ball out as quickly as just about anybody in college football. There was a point in the midway point of the season where Garrett Nussmeier was second in the country in time it took to get the ball out of his hand. I mean, it was coming out quickly. But you don't have Kyron Lacey, and you don't have C.J. Daniels, and you don't have Mason Taylor. So you're trying to work in a fresh group of wide receivers that haven't played as much at the spots they're going to be playing in, led by Xavier Thomas and Aaron Anderson and, of course, Chris Hilton. They're veterans, at least. They're not young like these offensive linemen, but they're new to what they'll be asked to do in this game. And so Nussmeier can try to get it out pretty quickly, but still, Baylor knows that. Dave Aranda's not dumb. He knows that LSU's probably going to try to play quick game with a new offensive line up there, so he'll play for that. They'll cover for that, and I expect them to be ready for something like that. But I think LSU's entire offensive identity in this game needs to start with the running game. You leaned on your strength, which was pass protection, with your offensive line whole. This is a whole new group, and I think it reshapes the entire identity of the offense. So we'll see. Again, I expect you to see Tyree Adams, Cohen Eccles, Paul Mabenga, DJ Chester, and Miles Frazier out there, potentially Bo Bordelon, potentially Weston Davis here or there. But that's probably going to be your group. And to me, that's the most interesting thing that we'll look at in this game. I'm not that curious about what Garrett Nussmeier does in this game. I know what Garrett Nussmeier is. I'm not that curious on how Aaron Anderson looks in this game. I'm not that curious about what Whit Weeks looks like out there, or how well that Braden Swinson gets after the passer. Like that, these things, I know these things. We're already kind of looking for 2025. And the way that we've shaped the college football calendar now, where we tell players, hey, in December, you get out of Dodge, like the team that played for 12 games no longer really exists, it all kind of starts pointing to next year if you're not in the playoff. So for me, like, I'm starting to look at these offensive linemen. LSU has gone and added Braylon Moore, and he'll be very likely your starting center next year. And they're not done in the portal. They will get a tackle in the transfer portal. I can assure you of that. But these are the guys that they've developed in the pipeline. That's part of developing a really good football program, is developing the high school ranks. They're going to be up in this game against the Baylor front that's not that great. I went through Baylor as a whole a couple of weeks ago, right when the game was announced, and their offensive numbers are significantly better than their defensive numbers thus far. It's not a great defense, so LSU's not going into a pressure cooker here. You're facing a pretty average unit. I'm very curious to see how the LSU offensive linemen hold up in the game coming up on Tuesday. That's our opening drive presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge. Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. We'll step aside, take a timeout, and when we come back, Preston Guy from TigerBait.com. We'll continue talking a little LSU football here on this Friday. Don't go anywhere. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Got to make LeBear's Baton Rouge your game day headquarters this season. You can watch all the games on their giant screen TVs, tackle the area's best game day food and beverages with all your friends, and get in on all the basketball and football action this winter with Penn Play and ESPN Bet. I tell you all the time how awesome ESPN Bet is as a game-watching experience. If you want to go watch the college football playoff games coming up middle of next week, you want to watch the NFL on Saturday and Sunday, and you want to watch multiple games at once, maybe you're in the fantasy championship and you want to have your eyes on multiple games at one time for the NFL, ESPN Bet is an awesome place to make that happen inside LeBear's. Penn's online sportsbook, now live in Louisiana. That's, of course, the ESPN Bet app. Score big this season at LeBear's Baton Rouge. However you want to play. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 for help.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment.
Dave's back on.
Coors Light. Choose chill.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas. You can count on efficient and affordable natural gas to keep you comfortable and reduce your
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
That rejoin just gets me every time. The grease bubbling, Corks rocks. Looking for a good po' boy. It's the holiday season in the Baton Rouge area. Corks serve you up an awesome fried shrimp po' boy, catfish po' boy as well. And right there on Government between Foster and Jefferson, they bring you our Friday shows each and every week. CorksFishandShrimp.com is the website. The other thing we do every single Friday is talk to our guy, Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. Preston, Merry Christmas. How are you?
Fun, good. How are you doing, man? Nice to see you this Christmas week.
It was. It's always a pleasure. Let's talk a little football here. What's your excitement level for the Texas Bowl this year?
You know, it'll be fun to watch a lot of new guys stepping up into new roles. I'd be lying if I'm not a little worried about the matchup, especially talking with, some of our Baylor guys. They're fired up for this. And basically, Baylor has no one out. Meanwhile, LSU is down to one tight end. You've got 4 new offensive linemen in new positions. You basically only have 3 wide receivers who have played any substantial snaps for you. To say LSU is thin for this bowl game, I think would be a bit of an understatement. Meanwhile, Baylor's coming in full force. So, it is exciting to see these young guys step up and produce in roles and give us a little preview into next year.
How many offensive linemen that are going to play in this game for LSU do you feel confident will start against Clemson?
That's a tricky question, Hunt.
It is. That's why I asked.
Well, and does their current position, does that count?
Yeah, they can move. I mean, you're obviously talking about Chester there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I'm almost certain DJ Chester will not be your starting center next year. That's not to say he won't start. Tyree Adams would be a pretty good bet to be your starting left tackle, in my opinion. Other than that, I mean, because you got there's a good chance this Josh Thompson kid from Northwestern State comes to LSU, and he's big. That's probably a right tackle for you. You're talking about, but I mean, Hunt. The real answer is until I see this transfer portal, the way things shake out, I really don't want to go too deep diving into guessing who's going to be where because, things can change so rapidly.
How's your confidence level in Brad Davis developing some of these young players? I mean, these are all guys that were 4- and 5-star recruits. Your Weston Davis, Cohen Eccles, Tyree Adams, Paul Mabenga, DJ Chester. I mean, these were heralded guys. How do you feel about their future?
Yeah, I wish I could say I had the confidence in Brad Davis that I had 365 days ago. But, there was a real learning curve for Brad Davis this year in terms of run blocking. And look, offensive line was still pretty good at pass blocking this year. There's no doubt about that. But run blocking was just not there this year. And, they've done a really good job recruiting. They're going to bring in a very strong offensive line class, possibly the strongest offensive line class in the country. And look, don't sleep on Solomon Thomas next year. He's a guy who will push for starting reps. He's arguably the best interior offensive lineman in the country, and I don't think anything Mabenga and company sold you this year is dead set on penciling in for a role next year. So we'll see. I still think Brad Davis is a good offensive line coach. I still like what he does. I just think that this particular offensive line didn't have a good run blocking skill set this year, and we'll see what the guys bring next year. But they definitely he's got a lot of work cut out for him. There's no doubt about it.
How do you feel about Trey'Dez Green after one season in purple and gold? We'll obviously see him a lot come Tuesday.
Yeah, I would have liked to see him, get some more consistent reps throughout the year. You understand why Mason Taylor, took the lion's share of those reps. And Mason Taylor caught a lot of balls this year. It's not like, Trey'Dez Green just came in and had some walk-on beat him out. He was there and he had to compete with Pimpton and he had to compete with him. And now it'll be the Trey'Dez Green show. At least for the ball game, it'll be before the Bauer kid from Oklahoma comes in. But we'll get a really good look at him. I'm more so interested to see how does he block? How does he play the full position of tight end? Because they've been using him as, basically a big-bodied receiver this year. I'm really interested to see how he plays the complete role of tight end because boy, they really don't have another tight end. And, one thing we were talking about, Bo Bordelon is one of the reserve tight ends that they use situationally. He's going to be your starting right guard, or at least it looks like he'll be your starting right guard with Miles Frazier sliding out to right tackle. I don't want to be too concrete on any of this because they haven't formally announced it. They may, we've seen a couple videos. I don't want to go too deep into those videos, but that'll be an interesting twist. Who is your second tight end for this bowl game?
It's interesting. They're a little thin, but that's just the way it goes in this era of college football. Are you a little surprised, disappointed? I'm not sure what adjective I want to use there, that Deshaun Spears didn't force his way to the field late in the season?
Yeah, I would have liked to see him develop a little better throughout the season. In fact, we were watching him in spring, and we see the athletic potential, and he started, I believe, as early as the UCLA game, if I'm not mistaken.
He got a ton of reps before the first bye, and then they decided against Ole Miss that they were going to go with the older guys, and they never went back.
Right. So, point being is that trajectory was heading up. He didn't play quite as well as we expected him to, but they went with veteran guys, and it's disappointing that as weak as LSU safeties were and as highly recruited as he was and how much talent he clearly has, that he wasn't able to secure a starting spot given that Jordan Gilbert and Sage Ryan just were not good this year. So a little frustrating and disappointing there, but I'd say he'll probably be your starting safety for the bowl game this week, and we'll get a real good look at him and possibly into the future. Is he going to be able to be good enough as a true sophomore to be your starting safety, or are you going to have to look to other guys? Maybe Delane from Virginia Tech take some reps at safety if he, does indeed decide to stick around to LSU. He has till January 15th to make that 100% official. He did sign the NII, the letter of intent, but that being said, he could still go pro. Or do you look at a guy like DJ Pickett? It'll be interesting to see what they do there.
I've talked a lot over the last couple of weeks about how I remember vividly going out to LSU football practice and just seeing the talent and the confidence level and the swagger of the defensive backs. And that just hasn't been the case the last couple of years. Do you feel like, looking at the transfer portal, you just mentioned Pickett, that's on its way back under Corey Raymond?
Yeah, it's certainly at the recruiting. And, we'll see on the development end of that. And another underrated element of that in these days is the retention element. Because, you got to bring guys in and you got to keep them around, and then you have to develop them. So, obviously, during Corey Raymond's entire tenure at LSU previously, he was an elite recruiter. Even when LSU was struggling down the stretch, he brought in back-to-back number one corners in the country in Stingley and, Ricks.
Eli Ricks.
But, neither one of them hardly played a game after 2021. So, you got to recruit these guys and get them actually playing well on the field. So he certainly is doing phase one of that, of bringing in these highly talented guys. There's a lot of players that I'm seeing coming in, Jakeem Jackson, Delane, Pickett, where I'm like, yeah, I could see why those guys could be elite corners next season. But you got to do that phase two. You got to develop them, and you got to keep them on the team.
How much different are your personal expectations for LSU's 2025 season today than they were before the portal opened?
Yeah, I would say a good bit different. I remember getting into some pretty heated debates telling people, hey, man, let's wait and see how this portal goes down for LSU because, projecting out the roster, after that Oklahoma game, it didn't look great, especially being that you had lost, Bryce Underwood, who was basically your big hope for the future. Well, lo and behold, LSU has turned it up another notch in the transfer portal and brings in arguably the best class in the country. Obviously, Texas Tech is the only class rated higher for the services, but it's because they have 4 more players than LSU. So we'll see how those die actually land. At this point, I really want to see, again, I know you hate to hear this, well, let's wait and see, but honestly, you really do have to wait and see because more good players are going to enter the portal, and LSU will land more good players. Maybe Josh Thompson, maybe we hear that pretty soon, and that in and of itself changes how the roster looks. I would say that expectations are that LSU makes the playoffs with this kind of roster and the investments they've made. I think that's a fair assessment.
A college football playoff, who you like to win the whole thing?
Man, first off, it seems like the field is pretty weak this year, doesn't it? I mean, I feel like there's not a team in the country who would have won last year, or, I think about, like that 2019 season. Is there a team beating 2019 Bama with Tua? Not even close. I think they're curb stomping everybody. So I think it's a pretty weak field this year. I think we can thank NIL and the transfer portal for that. But I'll take Oregon. We're talking about the only undefeated team. Your 2 seed is a 2-loss team in this tournament. So that's just how far ahead they are of everybody. Consistent. I love what Lanning is doing. He does have the toughest path, but if you're going to win it anyways, I mean, you might as well knock Ohio State out early.
We shall see. Tell everybody what's coming up on Tiger Bait. I know it's not in season anymore. So what do y'all got? What do y'all got going on?
Yeah, look, for us, it's almost like the biggest part of the season is once the regular season ends, once you get signing day and you get portal news. This is it's definitely not a slow time for us yet. My live show is going to go through the whole month of January, so you can catch up with me every Monday night. And Zach Nagy, we'll be doing our bowl preview. We're going to have one of our Tiger Bait correspondents who actually covers the Baylor site come talk to us. He knows both teams very well, so we'll talk about that tomorrow night. And then, Mike Scarborough, Buddy Sanji doing their thing Wednesday night, and we'll have one last post-game show. And then come February, I will, after that formal signing day, which not much goes down anymore on that signing day, I will, end my football-only show until August.
There you go. We'll chat with you next week, Preston. We appreciate the time.
Hunt, see you then.
Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, with us each and every Friday. If you're looking for our LSU content, you can always find it on YouTube or in podcast form, Hunt on LSU. You just search whatever you are. Listen to your sound or on YouTube, Hunt on LSU should pop up. Like, subscribe, rate, review, and get it right to your homepage with the touch of a button. We'll come back and get you ready for the NFL weekend in Week 17. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every car online is on the lot. Every car on the lot is online. GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Maybe a great time to get in the market for a vehicle. Start of the year. Just put Genesis on your list. If you're buying a car in Baton Rouge, you're probably going to be on Airline Highway anyway. Might as well make one more stop. They're right there near Piku, across from Women's Hospital. When you think Genesis, think luxury. When you think luxury, don't immediately say, it's out of my price range. Give it a look. It's unbelievable vehicles at reasonable prices, and some of the perks that come with being a Genesis driver include 3 years of complimentary maintenance, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and some of the safest cars on the road. Every car in the line was given the IIHA top safety pick. Some were top safety picks plus. Get on by Genesis of Baton Rouge, airline at Piku, or check them out online, GenesisofBatonRouge.com, GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered gold. Brack, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
We got to lock in coming up in 30 minutes. We're talking LSU, Mississippi Valley State hoops. Coming at you Sunday matinee from the PMAC. Don't miss that. I actually do have some things I want to talk about with this basketball team. I wrote a story for LouisianaSports.net yesterday that was talking about whether or not LSU would or would not make the tournament, and I gave some reasons why they will, some reasons why they won't, and I laid that out over. If you want to read it, you can at LouisianaSports.net, but I'll talk about it coming up in 30 minutes as well. Got to get you ready for the Saints and the Raiders. We'll chat about that in hour number 2. And Jim Larinaga, Miami's basketball coach, if you missed this over the holidays, hustle and bustle, just bailed. I'm out. I can't do this anymore. And that's not unlike Tony Bennett, not unlike Nick Saban, not unlike Chip Kelly. There are a lot of folks that have decided they don't want to do it. I'll have some thoughts on that entire situation coming up in the next segment. But it is week 17 in the National Football League. They played back on Wednesday for Christmas. They played Thursday Night Football. They will play tomorrow on Saturday. They'll play on Sunday as well. They'll play on Monday as well. They're all over the calendar. It's time to get you ready for NFL Week 17. Let's start in Tier 4 with the worst action of the week. It's the Titans and the Jags. There's a little bit of a local angle here. Brian Thomas Jr. has already set Jacksonville Jaguars rookie records for catches, yards, and receiving touchdowns. He has had a fantastic rookie campaign for a bad football team there in Jacksonville. That's the only game in Tier 4, which is good news. All the rest is a little bit better than that. Tier 3 is our heaviest dose of the week. The Chargers are at the Patriots. The Chargers win. They are in the playoff. Also, Justin Herbert, 153 yards away from passing Peyton Manning for the most yards ever by an NFL quarterback in 5 seasons, first 5 seasons. Jets are at the Bills, divisional matchup. Aaron Rodgers needs 1 touchdown to become the 5th NFL quarterback to 500 touchdown passes. Listen to these statistics, which won't surprise you at all, but they're jarring. Bills 23-5 in the division since 2020. That's second best to the Chiefs over that time. 23-5. The Jets 5-23. They are the worst in the NFL in divisional action since 2020. The Colts are at the Giants. Giants have lost 10 in a row. That is the most in the history of that storied franchise. They can make more history, though, coming up on Sunday. That could be the first team in the history of the National Football League to go 0-9 at home in a season. Of course, you just added the extra game that gives half the league a 9th home game. They could go 0-9 if they lose this one to the Colts. Panthers are at the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield leads the NFC in touchdown passes. If the Bucs lose to the Panthers in this game and Atlanta wins, the Falcons win the NFC South. Dolphins are at the Browns. The Dolphins lose. They are out Also, if the Chargers and Broncos win, the Dolphins are out. They'll travel to Cleveland. Tier 2, some better football for this one. The Broncos are at the Bengals. Jamar Chase trying to become the 5th wide receiver in NFL history since 1970 when they started keeping this stuff up to win the Triple Crown. That's pretty impressive stuff, what Jamar is doing up there with Joe. He's going to have a tough time potentially in this game, though, because Pat Surtain Jr. leads all cornerbacks in the NFL in expected points added when targeted. That's an advanced metric that just means how do you do in coverage. Pat Surtain does pretty well. I'm sure he and Jamar Chase will get to know each other quite well over the weekend. The Cardinals are at the Rams. The Cardinals are eliminated from the playoffs, but the Rams are surging. They've won 4 in a row to go from 5-6 to 9-6. They're on the precipice of another playoff berth. The Cowboys are at the Eagles. Only 3 players have posted double-digit sacks their first 4 seasons in the NFL. Those 3, Dwight Freeney, Derek Thomas, and Reggie White. They are all in the Hall of Fame. Micah Parsons would join that group if he gets half a sack over the next 2 weeks. Falcons are at the Commanders. See if Jaden Daniels and company can keep their run rolling. As I mentioned, the Falcons are close to winning the NFC South as the Bucs continue their free fall. We'll see if they can do that in the nation's capital. I don't think they will. I think the Commanders will win that football game. And Tier 1, only one game this week that I've got at the top of the top. The Packers are at the Vikings. The Packers are 11-4. Vikings are 13-2. Both of these teams have clinched playoff spots. Sam Darnold could become the first quarterback ever to win 14 games in his first year with a new team. For those gamblers out there, the Packers have covered 4 straight weeks. That is your look at NFL Week 17. Jordan Kitchens, as you look at the menu here of National Football League games, do you care about the NFC South Championship being decided? Or are you more so looking at your fantasy squad? What are we looking at for Week 17 here on this schedule?
Well, I hate to say it, but ever since I've got knocked out the fantasy playoffs,
yes,
I and the Saints have got embarrassed.
Yes, they did. They were embarrassed in Green Bay on national television.
Embarrassed. They actually got pants, literally.
Yeah, it was
pulled their
bad.
pants down on national television. I'm checked out. Like, I've been checked out.
Well, you can't go over to the Pelicans. So you can't lock in on that.
I have nothing.
You can do gardening now. What are you looking into?
I've been thinking about getting a guitar or something. You know, I need a hobby because my sports teams are trash. So
it's a tortured existence to pull for sports teams.
Let me tell you how torturous it is.
Well, please tell me.
The fact that the Pelicans have been playing since October and have the same amount of wins as the New Orleans Saints right now.
Yeah,
that's torturous.
That's not good. Yeah, the Pels are not good. I'll tell you, for me, I can't wait to watch Packers and Vikings. The Vikings are the quietest 13-2. No one talks about the Vikings. I don't. You got Darnold playing well. They got a really good coach. I mean, Jefferson's fantastic.
Amazing.
It's amazing what happens when you get a good football coach. Things can tend to happen.
Exactly.
But no, they were not on my radar at all. I actually was banging the drum of the Bears preseason because I'm looking at this. I'm going, okay, you got DJ Moore, and okay, you go get Keenan Allen, and you go draft Rome Odunze. You got Cole Kmet at tight end, and you bring in Caleb Williams, who we all think is good. Like that should be. And the Bears always have a good defense. Even the teams that are terrible, they have a good defense. And the Bears just have completely imploded and lost 9 games in a row. And the Vikings have surged. And that division, with 3 teams that already have double-digit wins, it's nuts how good the NFC North is.
And the Packers are scary. And they're like the 3rd best team in the division.
Because the Packers can run the ball. That's what I said. I mean, it feels like that was 4 months ago when the Saints played the Packers. So much has happened since then. But like when I previewed that game, I was like, I don't like this very much because the Packers can run the ball and the Saints can't stop the run. And the Packers, not only did they run the ball, they did whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted in that game against New Orleans. That's not a real strong barometer for success, how well you fare against the Saints. But it's good football teams there. So do you hate the Buccaneers as much as you hate the Falcons?
Well, no, not at all. And honestly,
so you want the Bucs to win the division?
Oh yeah, Falcons? Ew, no way. No. And because they're kind of on the same timeline as the Saints, like they got an old quarterback they gave a lot of money to and all that, so they're kind of on the same path as us. Honestly, the real winner of the division is Bryce Young. Not only did he, saved his career, you got Dennis Allen fired. So I'm forever indebted to Bryce Young. Shout out Bryce Young, man. A savior.
I didn't see that coming. That was an uppercut I did not see coming. I thought you were going to talk about how Bryce Young's really turned it around this season. He's playing better. And then he goes, he got Dennis Allen fired just immediately.
He's a legend. No free food for Bryce Young when it comes to New Orleans.
Okay, that's well said. And I guess Saints fans now, if you truly are pulling against Atlanta and that's your main motive here, you can certainly pull against them this week as they'll play Jaden Daniels and the Commanders in our nation's capital. I didn't mention earlier that Titans Jags does have some number one pick capabilities there. They're both under 25% to get it, but the winner is completely eliminated from getting that pick. The loser remains in the mix here. So that's your look at NFL Week 17. We got a lot to do coming up here to close out the hour, as well as in hour number 2. Got to talk some hoops. Got to talk Saints and Raiders as well. Maybe there are some other bowl games we'll discuss, and I got to talk to you about Jim Larinaga hanging them up mid-season. So we'll do that. It's kind of a temperature of the landscape of college sports at this point. So let's step aside, take a time out. We'll come back and close out hour number 1 coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. Got all their catering packages right there on the menu. I tell you that every single week, but if you're looking to feed your office at the end of the year, got a birthday party coming up, or you just got a big tailgate party, game watching party for the playoff games coming up, and you're going to feed folks in bulk, Corks is fantastic at it. They can get you those big trays of the crispy fried catfish, big trays of those shoestring fries, those jumbo Gulf shrimp, and they can get your sauces in there as well. They got all your traditionals, your cocktail, tartar sauce. They also got Cork sauce, which is fantastic as well. So if you're looking to feed in bulk, you can do that with our friends over at Corks. Check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. They bring you our Friday shows each and every week. Quick scoreboard update from the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Who could forget it? Navy and Oklahoma are knotted at 14. The Sooners scored 14 points in the first quarter, jumped out to that 14-0 lead, but they haven't been able to score since, and Navy's put a couple of touchdowns on the board. Now Navy has the football. It's 4th and 3. They're on the Oklahoma 22 with 6 minutes to play in the ball game, so potentially Navy could kick a go-ahead field goal here, or could go for it, as the service academies often do. But that game is close late. There's still more action to come here on this Friday. Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. That's a real nerdy game there. 2:30 kickoff on ESPN. Texas Tech and Arkansas tonight at 6 o'clock. Syracuse at Washington State. Syracuse and Washington State. Then USC and Texas A&M are at 9:30 tonight in the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. Of course, Miller Moss has moved on from USC. If you'll remember the name of Zachariah Branch, who we talked about a bunch, he's moved on as well. They're hemorrhaging players at Southern Cal, and I don't know if Lincoln Riley is going to be able to turn the tide on this thing. It just doesn't feel that way to me. Just a bad loss by LSU to start the season, quite frankly. But USC right back in Allegiant Stadium for the nightcap tonight. Texas A&M's a 3-point favorite in that game. All right, I wanted to close out the hour here talking about Jim Laranaga's abrupt decision to retire from coaching and leave Miami in late December while he's coaching the team. And he said very bluntly in that press conference that he called to announce his retirement that, I realized that this was a different world, and I was shocked when we went to the Final Four and then 8 guys said they had to go in the transfer portal. And I asked, don't you like it here? Yeah, Miami's fantastic. It's a great place. But the only way to create the opportunity to earn money is to get in the transfer portal and create a bidding war. And he just didn't like that. And I get it. I understand where Jim Laranaga is coming from. But I also want to just kind of assess the situation fully. Jim Laranaga, left George Mason, who had taken to the Final Four, for that job at Miami. And you would call that an upward move in the sport. And Jim Laranaga went to the Final Four on the back of a team that was paid for out of the transfer portal. We remember that. Kansas State's best guard went down there to play and got $1 million. And he used that part of the system to create success. He just didn't like it when it flipped on itself. And I get it. I get where he's coming from. But you got to assess it honestly. And I have said this pretty consistently. I will not go as far as to say that this is a perfect system and that everybody just needs to quit whining about it. I'm not going to go that far. I think that there are some issues here. But I also think that you're kind of wasting your time fighting too hard against it. You just need to either embrace it or bail. And look, we've seen guys bail. Nick Saban bailed. Tony Bennett in Virginia bailed. Jim Laranaga just bailed. Chip Kelly running the show at UCLA, I'll go call plays. Bailed. And guys have decided it's not for them. And I understand that. And so I think I can say two things at the same time. I can say that this is really difficult for coaches. It is really difficult. And failing to acknowledge that, I think, is disingenuous. If you can't look at this system and go, this makes coaching a really difficult job. I think basketball is a little bit easier than football because if you're coaching at Marshall and 35 or 40 guys leave your football team, it's just hard to go get 40 guys. That's a hard thing to do. Basketball, you need 6. You can probably go get 6. And in baseball, you got to go get 7 or 8. You can go get 7 or 8. Football, you got to go get 30. Like, that's a hard thing to do. And having to overhaul the entirety of your roster every single year is very difficult. But coaches have been doing this for years. Coaches have been program hopping for years. Coaches have left teams prior to championship games before. And now players get that opportunity. And you're never going to turn this spigot off of cash. Like, once the Supreme Court says you are allowed to get paid for your name, image, and likeness, even if you're an amateur athlete, you can't turn that off. You can't put that back in the box. So this is the way that it's going to be. It's just hard. And that's why these coaches are handsomely paid. And it's why you can actually turn things around really quickly if you've got an aggressive donor base. I think the flaw here is that, the skill of recruiting has been diminished greatly. But you know what? It's just roster acquisition. How you do it is kind of irrelevant. What team do you put on the field? What team do you put on the floor? So I understand where Jim Larrañaga is coming from, but he used this system to make a lot of money and to win a lot of games. And now he's decided that he doesn't want to be a part of it. And there's no crime, but you got to acknowledge that when you step away. I think, and he's not going to phrase it this way, and no coach, I guess, ever would, but I would have been more on Jim Larrañaga's side if the press conference sounded something like this. Yeah, I've been at this a long time. I'm getting a little bit older, and the effort that it takes to re-recruit your roster all year, every year, and to build something brand new each and every year is just more than I'm willing to put in at this point. And I probably preferred the old system where folks were more loyal to a program as opposed to pursuing finances at every turn. But I understand that this is the way that it is now, and I'm just not really cut out for it right now, so unfortunately I'm going to have to step away. If you said that, I'd be like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I get it. But that's not the way he phrased it. He basically said, this is broken, I hate this, and I don't want to deal with it, and didn't acknowledge the fact that, hey, you used the portal to get to the Final Four. You used George Mason as a stepping stone to Miami to bigger and better things for more money and better opportunity. Like, you did that, so now the players are getting that opportunity. It's just kind of how that works. And I guess usually it's better for eyeballs and ears for me to rant and rave and scream and say how this guy's an idiot. And I don't think that's necessarily the case here. I think I could be pretty level-headed about it and just suggest, like, I understand why you would want to step away, but at least acknowledge the other side of it. And I don't know that he necessarily did. Most people fall in two camps. This is awesome player empowerment. They've been doing things for years without being compensated for it. Hell yeah, transfer all you want, get all the money you want. That's part. And then there's some people who say, this is so stupid, you've broken sports. And I'm not really in any of those camps. I look at it and I go, well, the portal's kind of interesting for me as a fan and as someone who covers this because it creates news. LSU is busy in the transfer portal and you're overhauling your roster, and that's interesting to me. And I think it is good that players can make some money for doing some things on and off the playing field. But I acknowledge that it's a difficult expectation of these football coaches to maintain a roster when you just have open walls and you got dozens coming out and you got to bring dozens more in. It's just, that's hard. It's hard for these coaches to try to coach a bowl game while you're overhauling next year's roster. It's hard to convince guys to stay here when your donor base doesn't spend as much money. Like, it's a difficult thing, but they're paid handsomely for it. We'll see if that continues, if the salaries keep escalating as now you realize you do have to spend money to build your roster. But they get paid well to do it. And if you age out of it and decide you don't want to do it like Jim Larrañaga did, that's fine. But there's somebody who will come in and try to do it. I heard a coach in collegiate athletics say over the past week, like, if you spend a lot of time complaining about the system, you're just wasting time. Because it is what it is. You got to go play the game. And I think LSU is fully committed now to playing the game. I don't know that they were a year ago, especially on the football side. But you can believe that Matt McMahon's in on the transfer portal, and Kim Mulkey's in on the transfer portal, and certainly Jay Johnson's in on the transfer portal, and I think that LSU's programs have, got this thing moving in the right direction. It's just the way it is. And to me, personally, as a fan, like once they come out of that tunnel in that purple and gold uniform, no matter the sport, like I'm not really concerned with who's making what in NIL or how you got that guy or how much he loves LSU compared to how much I love LSU. Just get the game started. I know who to pull for. Like that's as simple as I can be to put it. So I wanted to touch on that here to finish up our number one on this Friday. We're brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. In hour two, we're going to talk a little bit of basketball. We'll talk Saints Raiders as well and get you ready for the weekend that is to come. Reminder that Matt Moscona is out this week for AFR, so Matt Musso will be in the captain's chair one more time from 3 to 6. So he'll be the one driving you home. He'll be driving me to New Orleans. That's where I'm headed tonight after we punch the clock here this evening. We got one more hour to go. We'll step aside for Sports Center, get your national headlines, and we'll be back with more on a Friday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Vaughn and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, if you moved a couple years ago, locked in a great interest rate, and you're not in a hurry to move, that doesn't mean you can't improve your living situation. How about a custom closet? Completely customized to your specifications. Maybe it's a full-scale renovation. David Vaughn and his team can do that. It'll be the only call you make. Maybe it's not. It's just something where you use the space that you got a little bit more efficiently. Go to the website, OneBathAndClosets.com, and see some of the pictures of their fantastic work. It is functional, it is customized, and it all looks fantastic. I can promise you this, David and his team are not going to come back 3 weeks later because something's malfunctioned. No, they're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. I always invite you to go to the website and get that free consultation. They're online at OneBathAndClosets.com. Get that process started today with David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets, all online at OneBathAndClosets.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly...
This is SportsCenter.
Quarterback Jalen Hurts is still in concussion protocol. That means Kenny Pickett will likely start Sunday's game against the Cowboys. The Seahawks are now 9-7. They'll be hoping for a Cardinals win over the Rams tomorrow to boost their playoff chances. Seattle quarterback Geno Smith.
I'm going to be a big Kyler Murray fan on Saturday, and, if they get it done, they get it done. But we're going to go into this last week of the season with the same mindset no matter what.
Geno Smith, the Seahawks play the Rams a week from Sunday. Warriors guard Steph Curry is out for tonight's game against the Clippers to manage soreness in both knees. Also for Golden State, Gary Payton II out at least a week with a mild left calf strain. A bowl game quadruple header today on ESPN right now in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Less than 3 minutes to go. Navy has come from 14 points down. They lead Oklahoma 21-14. We'll have two of those bowl games coming up on ESPN Radio starting at 6:30 Eastern Time.
Hey, what's up? Aaron Goldhammer coming up Monday on Sportsmanlike. We are getting closer and closer to the NFL playoffs, but we're going to tell you which contenders we believe in the least. It's on Sportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Saints and Raiders from the Dome coming up on Sunday. We'll talk about it coming up next. But start this segment with another Sunday action. It's basketball on the floor at the PMAC. It'll be LSU and the Delta Devils of Mississippi Valley State University. I got some things to tell you about the Delta Devils, and none of them are overly glowing. This is a team that is ranked dead freaking last in the net. Dead last. You look back at their last 3 outings. They went up to Tulsa to play the Golden Hurricane. They lost that game 93-48. That is a 45-point beatdown at the hands of Tulsa. 3 days prior, they were in Denton, Texas to play North Texas, and they lost 83-42. That is a 41-point loss to North Texas. They went to Liberty a week before that. They lost 89-52. That is a 37-point loss. The only 2 wins that Mississippi Valley State had registered this year are against Oakwood University. I looked it up. It's in Huntsville. They won that game 91-71. They also beat Mississippi University for women. This is a school that Will Wade's McNeese team played last year. Apparently when it opened, it was an all-women's school, and now it's not. It's co-ed. They just still call it Mississippi University for women. But they did win that game 66-49. But they have not played anybody else within 30 points. Iowa State beat them by 39. Texas beat them by 46. Missouri beat this team by 72 points. 72. 111-39. I just had to click the box score to see what that must have looked like in that game, and it looks about like you would think. Missouri outscored them 51-19 in the first half, and then 60-20 in the second half. Mississippi Valley State was 1 of 10 from three-point range in that game. They turned the ball over 23 times against Missouri. Meanwhile, the Tigers of Missouri shot nearly 50% from 3 in that game and had 15 steals. So the Delta Devils are not great. That kind of goes without saying. But I do think that we still have to talk about this LSU basketball team and kind of what needs to be accomplished. And you're going to hear a lot of the same things from me that I've been saying for the last 2 weeks. And I think right now for me and LSU, it comes down to like two main factors. There are other things that we can talk about, but it's basically two main factors for this basketball team that have got to be cleaned up. They've got to do a way better job on the defensive glass. They are giving up too many offensive rebounds. They've been better of late. They were very good in the Stetson game. They only allowed 7 offensive rebounds against the Stetson team that couldn't throw it in the ocean. They missed their first 16 shots in that game. And LSU did a better job in that game on the glass. But they've got to continue to do that. They also have to shoot the three better. Like, this is a non-negotiable at this point. LSU is not shooting the ball from three-point range well enough to win enough games. Like, that's... I think they're going to be up against it often in SEC play, and if you don't shoot it, then it becomes worse. And you've got Cam Carter at this point who is shooting the lights out. He's been fantastic to this point. Cam Carter has shot, I'm looking for the number here. I've got it written down somewhere. It is, I can't find it. But I do see that you're talking about Jai Bailey is not going to be a great shooter. He's shooting 25% from three. Jordan Sears shot 43% from three-point range last year. He's at 36%. So he's 7 or 8 points off of his average. Jalen Reed last year shot 42% from three. He's not playing, and Damian Collins and Corey Chest can't help you from the three. Also, Victorious Miller and Curtis Givens, who are seeing extended minutes, they're combined 16 for 88 from three. Right now, LSU is shooting 32% from the three-point line. That has to pull up at SEC play to 36 or 37%, I think, because modern basketball requires that you make threes. And when you couple that with the fact that LSU does not have a low-post option to throw the ball to consistently to initiate offense, whether that's to draw a double team or to go to work, you're not going to do that with Damian Collins. You're not going to do that with Corey Chest. Those guys are athletic. They can get on the offensive glass. They can help you around the rim, catching lobs in the pick-and-roll game, but they're not low-post scoring threats. So you've got a defense that doesn't have to respect that and now is not having to respect your three-point shooting because you're not doing a great job. Well, now you're making defense too easy. So they've got to get a bump from some of these guys. You're not going to get a bump from Cam Carter, who's shooting over 40%, but you've got to have Jordan Sears pull up that 36% to closer to what he was last year, which was 43%. You've got to have Jai Bailey shoot it a little bit more consistently. And then Curtis Givens and Victorious Miller need to shoot it better. The good news is Victorious Miller is shooting it better of late. He made 7 threes in his last 2 games. He's shooting it a little bit better. Givens has been disappointing from a shooting perspective. It's hard to tell how good a shooters guys are when they commit and you check out the highlights on YouTube because you don't miss a lot of shots on a highlight tape. So it's hard to tell how good guys shoot it. Givens needs to shoot it a little bit better. I'm not asking him to be a 45% three-point shooter, but he's got to do better than he has. And right now, Victorious Miller and, as I mentioned, Givens are 16 for 88 from deep. That's got to improve. So shooting is one thing that I've got to see, and we'll see what they can do in this game on Sunday. I mentioned the backboards as well. You're 242nd in the country in defensive rebounding percentage. You've got to clean that up. LSU's defensive efficiency numbers are actually good. They're 32nd in the country in defensive efficiency. That's great, but you've got to get to the other end of the floor. You've got to rebound it. And you allowed some teams early on in your schedule to really hurt you on the glass, and these teams in the SEC are relentless. A&M leads the country in offensive rebounding. Auburn's really good on the offensive glass. Every team Rick Barnes trots out there in Knoxville can go get it off the glass. Calipari's always going to have a bunch of long, athletic dudes in the front court that can rebound. If you don't match up with those guys down there and get to the glass, like, you don't have a chance. So I'm not going to give you a bill of goods here about what LSU needs to improve in the game against Mississippi Valley State. I think I made the point very clear. This team is pathetic. It is probably the worst team in Division I. So I don't care what the scoreboard says. I don't care if you have a clunky 8 minutes of action. Like, it's going to be another sleepy crowd on a Sunday, nobody in the building, awful opponent, no name brand. Like, you're going to have to to bring your own juice. But the good news for LSU is you shouldn't be threatened, because this team can't threaten, Tulsa or North Texas. They're not going to come in here and threaten LSU. But it's your last time to get tuned up, because after this, it gets real. And you know this, and we're not going to rehash this over and over and over again. We'll talk about Vanderbilt when we get to Vanderbilt next week. But this is your last opportunity. You basically got 2 weeks to practice for Vanderbilt, because you've got you had this week where you didn't have a game to prepare for, and you don't have a midweek game next week. And you get ready for Vanderbilt, and you got to come out swinging in that game. So it'll be LSU and the Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils on Sunday. You can catch it streaming on ESPN+. If you're looking for our Hoops content, you can find it on wherever you find your podcast. The old Hoops with Hunt feed is up and cooking. If you listened to Hoops with Hunt in the past, we appreciate that. But all our basketball segments from this show are archived right there at Hoops with Hunt. It's not new, it's not daily, but whenever we talk basketball, it gets uploaded there to Hoops with Hunt, so you can check that out wherever you find your podcast. Our Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish, and Shrimp. We'll come back, talk some Saints and Raiders. That's coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. I'll give you a personal story here from the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. We asked Myers to go open the front door. It was locked. And he walked up to it, turned the lock, and walked out. That gave Alyssa the heebie-jeebies. He didn't do it on his own, but he showed he had the capability. And that made Alyssa nervous for when she's home alone with him and she is back there getting ready for something or whatever, and he could theoretically walk out of the house. So she wanted to get a new security system sensor put there on the front door and then have it echo in our bedroom. We're going to put a keypad in the bedroom so that if the door opens, it says front door open, and Alyssa knows that he may have done that. So she called Audio Video Security Solutions, and they came in and put in a brand new keypad right there in our bedroom. It was seamless. It was easy. They did it the next day. It was fantastic. From an installation perspective, the customer service is second to none with Audio Video Security Solutions. And it starts with Mitchell Fisher, who's the owner of the company. This is his cell phone number, 225-439-7920. When you're talking about security systems, it's really important, and it's really important to myself and certainly to my wife. She wanted to make that happen at Mitchell Fisher and the team at AVSS. Knocked it out in a day. They're awesome to work with, and we certainly do over at the Palmer House. Check them out online, avssla.com. It's Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
All right, so by now, if you've listened to enough Fridays, you know that at the bottom of the hour, in the first hour on Fridays, I get you ready for the NFL slate to come, and I put them in tiers, 4 being the worst, 1 being the best. If I was going to put the Raiders and Saints in a tier, very clearly this would be a tier 4 football game. You're talking about a couple of teams that have been eliminated from playoff contention. You're talking about a matchup of starting quarterbacks that's very likely going to be Aiden O'Connell against Spencer Rattler. These teams are combined 8-22. There's just not a lot of juice here. The Saints have already fired their coach. The Raiders have hired an interim coach who I don't know if he's going to be there after one full season as the head coach. It's not a game with a lot of meat on the bone. Brock Bowers could set a rookie record. Mike Ditka's 1961 single-season receiving yardage record by rookie tight ends was 1,076, and he may get there. But that's really it. The Raiders are favored by a point. And as I was looking at this game and kind of thinking about, okay, what's the Saints' angle here? I really can't sell you Spencer Rattler anymore. I told you that it was interesting for the first couple of weeks. That was really disheartening in Green Bay. I don't know how else to say it. You're talking about a Monday Night Football opportunity with a reasonable offensive line in front of you, and Rattler couldn't produce anything. They couldn't move the football. They couldn't produce points. It was just a kind of a mess. And he shows you the highlight reel throw when he jump throws and fires a laser in there. And the next one, he doesn't see his zone corner bailing on a concept, and he throws it right into the numbers, and it's an interception. I think the likelihood that Spencer Rattler is the Saints' next franchise quarterback is microscopic. It just doesn't look that way. And that's always generally going to be the case. Like, you don't see a lot of quarterbacks drafted on day 2 or 3 of the NFL draft that make it. Yes, every once in a while Brock Purdy shows up. Yes, every once in a while Jalen Hurts can be a league MVP type guy. It wasn't a first-round pick. Yeah, there are some instances where that happens. Kirk Cousins is thrown for bajillion yards. But far more often than not, the quarterback comes from the top 15, 18 picks. That's where starting quarterbacks are taken. Just look around the NFL. I mean, it's almost unanimous. You look at a game where the Chargers are playing I'm just looking at the schedule for this week with no read. Like, the Chargers are playing the Patriots tomorrow. Those guys were high picks, Drake May and Justin Herbert. You look at the Broncos and the Bengals. Bo Nix, high pick. Joe Burrow, first pick. The next game on this list is Cardinals and Rams. Matt Stafford was the first pick in the draft. Kyler Murray, first pick in the draft. Like, those guys go really, really early. You got, Dak Prescott would be the Cowboys quarterback, and that certainly applies there, and Jalen Hurts for the Eagles. But then you go to the next game is Jets and Bills. Aaron Rodgers, first-round pick, and Josh Allen was a first-round pick. Like, that's just where the quarterbacks – I was just going down chronological scoreboard here on ESPN.com, and the Saints haven't done that. And they've tried to find some guys here and there, whether it's Ian Book and Jake Haener and now Spencer Rattler, and I just don't know that it's going to work. Now, Derek Carr was a first-round pick, and you traded for him, and that's fine if that was the move you're going to make, but we kind of know what that is now, and he's not available, so you're looking towards the future. And I just don't know that Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener offers that. I think there is reason to believe that they could be a serviceable backup quarterback. I would trust Rattler more than I would Haener because there's a little bit of upside there. But, again, I don't mean to boil an entire player's career down to 60 minutes of football in Green Bay, but we've now seen him for, periods of 4 or 5 games. I just don't see a lot. And so, again, Peyton Manning set the rookie record for interceptions his first season, and we know how that turned out. I'm not saying that you've got to immediately come in and set the world on fire, but I don't feel like he's going to be an answer. So I can't look at this game and sell you that bill of goods. I think where I'm at now as far as interesting storylines for this game with the Saints and the Raiders, I'm still with Kendre Miller. Like, he has shown some flashes. And I just feel like if you're going to ask Alvin Kamara to shoulder the biggest workload in the NFL, which he did for the first month and a half of this season, he led the NFL in touches. At this age, this is the result you're going to get. He's hurt, and he's been hurt all year. He's playing with banged up ribs, and he got hurt. Like, you can't ask a guy who's taken that many hits over his career to continue to be the workhorse and the guy that's shouldering the biggest load in the NFL. You've got to get Kendre Miller and Jamal Williams involved. Kendre Miller is young, he is cheap, he is talented, and he has a lot of tread on his tires. He wasn't overworked at TCU. He certainly hadn't been overworked in 2 years at the Saints. He's been hurt the whole time. So I'm looking at Kendre Miller as a guy that I need to see kind of step up, and this is a chance for him to do that. The Saints are obviously going to try to run the football with a young quarterback out there. They're going to try to establish that early and often. They're going to run that outside zone, which they really like to run. And I'm looking at this preview piece on ESPN.com, and it says the Saints run outside zone 61% of the time. That's the second most in the NFL. And the Raiders are 14th in EPA allowed per design carry overall, but it gets worse when facing outside zone. That's 23rd in the NFL. So this should be a decent matchup for the Saints running game. The Raiders don't stop outside zone well. The Saints run it as much as anybody in the NFL. You've got your offensive line reasonably healthy, and you've got a running back that you feel like you need to feature and get a better look at as he moves through his second professional season. So as I try to look at this and find the interesting storyline, to me, it feels like Kendre Miller is that. I've talked to you about Alontae Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry. Those guys have had their peaks and valleys for sure. In this new, since Adebo went down and Lattimore was traded, we've talked about Penning and Fuaga. We've talked about kind of developing these wide receivers. You don't get a chance to see Bub Means, who is on IR and is out for the rest of the season. So there are places you can look to, but the fact of the matter is, you look at this roster, a lot of it is going to have to be turned over for the next great Saints team. You hear me say that all the time. Like, is this guy ticketed for the next great Saints team? And then you look at players like Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu. My answer is no. I don't think they're on the next great Saints team. I don't think Derek Carr is on the next great Saints team. But I could suggest that the two corners, the two tackles, Kendre Miller, some of those guys could be on the next great Saints team. So those are the guys I'm focused on. Those are the guys I'm looking at in these games that are essentially meaningless. Jordan, you said you've checked out in the first hour. I'll take your word for that, but I still think you're probably going to watch this game on Sunday.
Yeah,
is there anything that you find particularly interesting in this game that I may not be hitting on? I looked. I'm trying.
It's not much to look at, unfortunately.
Do you want the Saints to lose?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
I mean, yes. To be real, you're going to watch both teams try to lose this game. Saints might try to give a little bit more.
I don't know. Antonio Pierce might want that job, and I know Darren Rizzi does too.
Man.
I think that there's going to have to be something truly special that went on to have Darren Rizzi keep that job. Beating Atlanta is not truly special, and then certainly getting annihilated by Green Bay doesn't help. I think they'll look elsewhere.
Yeah,
but those two guys are probably fighting for their jobs.
Yeah, I think Antonio Pierce has been on borrowed time, especially that the Raiders they ended up winning last week and messed all the draft where they were supposed to be at. So I can't be like, oh, they're going to have a top 3 pick. So, but okay, I get it. Rattler hasn't shown anything, but I mean, you're giving them salt and pepper and trying to make something that doesn't involve salt and pepper. Like, you're giving them lettuce, but this guy doesn't eat vegetables. Like, look at his receivers.
It's bad.
Come on, man. Hunt, they're one injury away from them calling me and you up to come get some snaps in our receiver.
I don't have much breakaway speed. I really don't take the top off the defense well.
Who has breakaway speed we have out there right now?
MVS.
He was sick, and then he shows up sick.
He was sick.
Then he was sick. So it's like, yes, I get it.
Rattler, he was sick.
Yeah, you shut out first team to get shut out this season. Terrible. The team looked cold. All right, let's call up spade a spade. The team just looked cold. Nobody wanted to tackle Josh Jacobs. But like Rattler, he's a 5th round.
You still
pick.
feel like he's got a chance to be?
I mean,
the Saints franchise quarterback.
I ain't gonna say franchise, but I really feel like we haven't got a chance to really see what he can do. When he first started, the line was decimated.
Yes.
Now he's come back, the line is intact, the receiver core decimated.
Gone.
So it's like you give him an O-line, take away the receivers. You give him some receivers, take away the O-line. It's a revolving door right now. So there's no stability. I'll say that. It's hard for him to be great when there's no stability.
I just I need you to score some points.
Yeah,
I need not a bagel. And I tried. Like last week, I was like, all right, I really want to see Spencer Rattler. This is a good opportunity. He's had time to game plan, and you've got an offensive line that's kind of come together. Okay, see if you see if you can run the ball and see if Rattler can operate. He's had 3 starts, all fewer than 175 passing yards.
Yeah.
The Saints, if he doesn't reach 175 passing yards on Sunday, he will be the first Saints quarterback to go 4 straight games without 175 passing yards since Steve Walsh in 1990.
Yeah,
Shout out to ESPN research for that one.
Extremely long time ago.
I was 2 when Steve was slinging it around for not very many yards for the Saints. So it's rough. Alvin Kamara, the groin injury is very much touch and go. I just don't think Derek Carr is going to play in this game. I know he would like to play in this game against the Raiders, and I fully expect him to play in the finale in Tampa. I fully expect him to play, even though it doesn't make any sense because that's just the way he's wired. I respect it. I don't get it. But you're not going to see him, I don't think, in this game. You just can't go out there with a broken hand. So. Again, we'll see probably a sleepy environment in the Superdome. Not a lot of juice in this one, but we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. And Spencer Rattler goes out there and throws for 325, and I can go, hey, that was something to build off of. And you're playing a bad team, so it's certainly possible. But I will not be putting any sense on Spencer Rattler over the passing total at this point. So Saints and Raiders noon in, I believe it's at noon. Noon in the Dome on Fox. Yeah, they're not going to flex that one to the
that's not prime time.
To the big
window.
Not prime time. But the NFL has just taken over the weekend schedule. Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You're getting NFL football. Last night, that game, not good. Bears, not a great football team. That's the understatement of the day. But the Saints and Raiders will go at it at
before
noon.
We go.
Yeah, what you got?
Who do you think will win right now, the Bears or the Saints?
With Rattler?
With Rattler versus Caleb Williams right now. Because you can't say Caleb has shown much.
No, he hasn't. I would say the Saints would win.
Okay.
The Saints.
3 to 6?
The Saints have shown a pulse.
Yes.
The Saints have won. I mean, Rizzi's won 3 games?
Yeah, more than Dennis Allen.
So yeah. So the Bears haven't won since like September. I mean, they're just awful. And you know this. Like I've talked about this on the air a bunch. Like I got a lot of Bears crossover on my social medias because of my Cubs following, and they are just crestfallen in Chicago. They really believed this year.
Was the year.
They bring in Caleb Williams. You got Keenan Allen. You got DJ Moore. You draft Rome Odunze. You got Cole Kmet at tight end, who's a good player. The Bears always have a good defense, and that you're just going to plug Caleb in, and they're going to be good. And I bought into it, and they stink. And their players hate playing. Their offensive line is atrocious. Caleb Williams has no idea what to say in post-game interviews. They haven't won in 2 months. It is a tough scene there at Hallis Hall for the Bears. The Saints have at least shown some fight and won some games.
I appreciate that. As long as you got us in that one, that's all that matters.
They would beat the. How many teams do I think the Saints would currently beat at this point? I would take. They beat Cleveland. I would take them over.
Jaguars?
I would take them over the Jaguars. I would take them over the Titans.
Okay.
I would take them over the Giants and Browns, who they beat. So they're not the dregs of the league. They looked awful on Monday. Yeah, they're not in the bottom 4, but they're pushing. They're pushing it. So we'll see.
Knocking on the door.
I'll be watching LSU and Mississippi Valley State play basketball during that game on Sunday. So
respectfully,
I don't know who's winning in that situation, but that's just the reality of the situation. All right, let's step aside. We'll come back, and we got 30 minutes left to go in our abbreviated work week. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. How about a little peace of mind? Peace of mind is a powerful, powerful thing. Give yourself the peace of mind to know the power is never going to go out at your home or your business. If you're a commercial property owner or a business owner and you'd like to get that Generac generator put in, they can do it for you over at Boudreaux's Electrical. Neil and Melissa have been doing this for 4 decades. You've been doing something for 4 decades, you know what you're doing, and they certainly do at Boudreaux's Electrical. They've got the same phone number they had for 40 years. Down there in Napoleonville, 985-397-1562. Again, 985-397-1562. But they've got the new location in Gonzales, 225-300-9389. You can give them a call there. I'll give you the easy way each and every day as well. It's boudreauxelectrical.com. Get that Generac home standby generator put in now. We always know there's another hurricane that's coming. We all know these summer storms that blow through at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that can be pretty powerful and can be a nuisance and knock your power out for 3 hours. Don't have that happen. Have that Generac home standby generator installed at your home or office today. Check them out online, boudreauxelectrical.com, boudreauxelectrical.com.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
All right, we got a final from Fort Worth, Texas in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Navy 21, Oklahoma 20. Navy scored a touchdown to go up 7 points with about 5 minutes to play. Oklahoma drove it down, and with 6 seconds to play in the game, scored a touchdown. And Brent Venables said, hey, we're not playing for a tie here in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. We're going for the win. And I just watched the 2-point play, snapped it in the shotgun. Michael Hawkins Jr. looking, didn't have anywhere to go, tried to get out of the pocket, and was brought down in the backfield to thwart that conversion opportunity and seal the game for Navy. The midshipmen go to 10-3. Oklahoma 6-7 on the season. Here's the deal. I'm reading Brandon Drum's Twitter. And Brandon came on the show, great guy, and I enjoyed our discussions as LSU played Oklahoma in the season finale. But I just don't know that I agree with some of his takes on the result of this game. I'm pulling up his Twitter right now, and he says, something has to change and change quickly. loss is embarrassing. It just is for a program like OU to be 6-7 again. It's just unacceptable. Don't even know where to start with how this game and season went down. The Cheez-It Bowl in 2022 felt like a win and built the 2023 momentum. This feels like the complete opposite. Hope I am proven wrong. Okay, so he's suggesting that losing to Navy in this game is completely embarrassing and really cuts the legs out from under you as a program. And I sit here, and I don't know Oklahoma's personnel. Certainly, we previewed the Sooners leading up to LSU's game with Oklahoma, and certainly I understand a couple of situations because they hit locally. But like this Oklahoma team that took the field against Navy today did not have Jackson Arnold, its starting quarterback, who is in the transfer portal. Did not have Nick Anderson, who plays for LSU. Did not have Bauer Sharp, who plays for LSU. There are significant losses to the roster, and you don't have your team. So I don't care if you lost to Navy. Just like I wouldn't care if they beat Navy by 30. I don't think it is any indication of where your program is. The indication of where your program is, to me, is who you got out of the transfer portal over the last 3 weeks. I don't care if you lost to Navy in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. And that's kind of the point that I'm making here when I preview LSU and Baylor and talk about some of these bowl games as we move forward. I'm confident, certainly can't say I'm certain, but I'm confident that Oklahoma probably played this game without 5 or 6 starters. Well, that's a big deal. And you can say, well, you got to build depth and you got to have the next man up mentality. Have you looked at the portal? The guys who don't start transfer. So the next man up usually isn't even there. I can't put an indictment on the entire program based on this game. Now, if you want me to talk about Oklahoma football big picture, I would tell you that I don't think Brent Venables is going to get this done. You're talking about an Oklahoma team that next year on its schedule is going to have to go to Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. They're going to have to play Texas away from home. They welcome LSU and Ole Miss up to Norman. They've got to go to Tuscaloosa and play. Like, it doesn't get any easier. It's hard. And I don't think their roster is there from a talent perspective, and I don't sense that it's moving in that direction. In fact, I think the opposite. I think losing some of your best talent at wide receiver is counterproductive. So I'm betting against Brent Venables, but I don't think it has anything to do with losing to Navy. Just like I don't think LSU's in big trouble if they get beat by 20 points by Baylor on Tuesday. I don't think that Arkansas is in trouble because they go to the Liberty Bowl and lose to Texas Tech later today. I think they're in trouble because they got 30 guys in the transfer portal. It's just there was a time where I could look at these bowl games. I can vividly remember seeing all the SEC Big Ten matchups that would be played in the Gator Bowl and the Citrus Bowl, and you could look around and kind of use that as conference pride, and it was a big deal. And somewhere along the last decade, players have decided that the risk of playing in an exhibition game is not worth it, so the best players in the country don't play if it's not the playoff. And then you've got guys who are getting in the transfer portal before the bowl games even start. So I don't know who played tight end for Oklahoma today. Wasn't Bauer Sharp. I know that Oklahoma decided that Jackson Arnold was the best starting quarterback that they had late in the season, and he didn't play today. Michael Hawkins went out there and played. Meanwhile, I'm just going to guess. This is a guess. It's educated, but it's a guess. I bet Navy had a pretty good participation in their bowl game. Something tells me there weren't a lot of guys at the Naval Academy that were opting out. Something tells me not a lot of guys at the Naval Academy who were getting in the portal to see who could run up the bidding on NIL. I know Michael Horvath, their quarterback, played. He had a 95-yard touchdown run against Oklahoma. But that may be the worst team you could draw in a bowl game. If you're a mediocre team like Oklahoma, you're going to face a team that's disciplined and at full strength in Navy. And they still almost won the game. And that's the thing. Like, you say, well, that's an embarrassing loss and just terrible way to end the season. You're now boiling the season down to one snap because they were one completed pass away from beating Navy. And they didn't. So now they've lost, and that's just one play that swung the pendulum. I just can't get on board with that. I realize that Brandon is an OU guy, and he's passionate about it, and I understand that you don't want to lose to Navy. I get it. But look, man, it's a different era, and I just can't conjure up a lot of emotional capital on some of these bowl games. I realize that Arkansas wants to beat Texas Tech and vice versa. I get that A&M wants to beat USC, and you feel like if you're USC, you got to show that you're moving in the right direction, even though you got guys flying out of the transfer portal. And if you're Mike Elko, you're trying to build a foundation at Texas A&M. But let's just be very, very clear about what's abundantly clear, that the biggest result for your football program in December is your portal ads, not your bowl result. I mean, look, we talked about it for years about how we felt like that A&M Cotton Bowl win for LSU for the 2010 season in January of 2011 was like a lifting off point for LSU in that 2011 season. You had young players like Tyrann Mathieu and Thorold Simon, Eric Reed making plays, Spencer Ware hitting big runs, and you're like, oh, this is the next wave that's coming, and it was a momentum booster. Now you don't even know who's going to be on the team. So I can't get that fired up about it. I hope all the SEC teams lose. That to me that's the way I've always watched bowl games. But I just don't think it's that big a deal. Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt are underway. They just started in the Birmingham Bowl. Can't miss that one between those two teams. Good proximity for those two teams to Birmingham. Nashville to Birmingham and Atlanta to Birmingham. Not too far away, so maybe some attendance for that game. Texas Tech and Arkansas at 6 o'clock on ESPN in the Liberty Bowl. And as I mentioned, the nightcap tonight for Southeastern Conference teams, USC and Texas A&M from out in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Curious just how much A&M shows up in that game. I can't imagine many SC fans at all will go. They were just there 3 months ago, and the team is 6-6 and has got a ton of guys in the portal. A&M at least feels like they really had something going midway through November, and it all fell apart. But they feel like that they may be building towards something good at 8-4. Maybe get a quick flight out there from Houston to Vegas to see the Aggies play USC. We'll see. I'm curious how that looks. And as we know, the SEC teams that have already played, Florida beat Tulane 33-8. Texas beat Clemson in the playoff 38-24. And Ohio State beat Tennessee 42-17. Rest of the SEC action is coming Monday, Missouri and Iowa. And then Tuesday, Bama, Michigan, South Carolina, Illinois, of course, LSU and Baylor. Then Wednesday, the SEC teams in the playoff will do battle. That's Texas and Arizona State, and then Notre Dame and Georgia. Ole Miss draws the late slate in this one. They're at January the 2nd in the Gator Bowl against Duke. So that's a look at your SEC teams in bowl games coming up this bowl season. Step aside, come back and close things out. It's a Friday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. They make things so easy for you. It couldn't be easier working with the folks at Genesis of Baton Rouge. You log online, GenesisofBatonRouge.com. You can see every car that they've got on the lot, whether you're looking for the sedan all the way up to the SUV. They're all there online. You can check out the pictures, see pricing, check out all the bells and whistles as well. And if you decide, hey, I'd really like to get behind the wheel of one of these, you don't have to go to the dealership to do it. You can give them a call. They'll have one of their brand ambassadors drive to you, whether that's at work, whether that's at home. They'll take it to you. You can test drive it. You decide, hey, this is what I want to get, what I want to buy. Well, that's awesome. And you don't have to go to the dealership to finish that deal either. They can do e-contracts, digital delivery. And then once you get the car, you got 3 years of complimentary maintenance, and they can do that valet style too. Got one of their brand ambassadors that'll come get your car, leave you a Genesis to drive for the time being. They'll take your car to the dealership. They'll handle your oil change, your wiper fluid, windshield wipers, your air filter, the whole deal. They'll bring it right back to you. You don't have to lift a finger. It's so easy, so convenient. It's just part of the experience of driving a Genesis. They're on Airline Highway at PQ across from Women's Hospital. Get on by and see them here at the end of 2024 to kick off your 2025 and get behind the wheel of one of these great Genesis at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're online, GenesisofBatonRouge.com, GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment.
Dave's back on.
Coors Light. Choose chill.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
A little bit of breaking news here as we wind down on this Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. LSU has secured another commitment out of the transfer portal. It is former Northwestern offensive lineman Josh Thompson. Thompson has been the right tackle at Northwestern for the last couple of seasons. He's played in 31 career games. He has started 21 games. He was very much in the mix for Michigan State, Ohio State, Michigan, South Carolina, and Tennessee. It appears LSU won the bidding for Josh Thompson. We knew this was coming. LSU was certainly not done on the offensive line, and they make their push here. You're talking about a guy in Thompson that is 6'4". He's about 300 pounds. And he can probably slide in at right tackle. You've now got a situation where at the left side, you're going to have a competition at this juncture with Tyree Adams and Weston Davis. But you realize that you've probably got 3 spots on your offensive line solidified. Braylon Moore is very likely your starting center. I think it's likely that DJ Chester is a starting guard, and I think it's likely that Josh Thompson is the right tackle. So that might be the right side of your offensive line. And then you tell all these other guys, hey, you're working out for the left, whether it's Tyree Adams, Weston Davis, Cohen Eccles, who I know that they really like. Paul Mabenga certainly showed some flashes, but you're solidifying things with plug-and-play starters on the offensive line. That's a very, very good thing for LSU. They're going to have to be better in the run game this year, and that's what I talked about to open the show. I'm already calling it this year. We have a game to play in 2024. But, yeah, I think this is a big get for LSU because a lot of big-time schools were in the mix, and LSU wins out. So I'll say this, like, I think LSU is squarely a playoff or bust type situation now. I think you could probably say that at any point in Baton Rouge that you should always get into a 12-team playoff or have that aspiration. I was looking at this roster as of 2 months ago, maybe a month ago, and I was going, look, you may lose Nussmeier. You are looking at a defense that is losing its most impactful edge rushers. Who knows what you've got at defensive tackle. Your leading tackler at linebacker, Greg Penn, is moving on. Your secondary has underperformed pretty much for a couple of years. Like, what are you leaning on here? This doesn't look great. But when you can go into the portal and pull like 9 starters out of the portal, which is what they're probably going to have done, it changes everything. And this is the latest. So if you missed it, you're just jumping in. LSU grabs 6'4", 300-pound offensive tackle Josh Thompson from Northwestern into the fold here on this Friday. So big ad. They've now got 2 starting offensive linemen from the Power 5 in Braylon Moore and Josh Thompson. So let's play some Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
Alrighty then. So Tulane star running back Mekhi Hughes has entered the transfer portal on Friday. 2 seasons as a starter with the Green Wave, earning first-team All-American Athletic Conference honors in back-to-back seasons. He has 2 more seasons of eligibility left. One of the most coveted players in the portal. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I mean, he's good. He'll take it. I mean, that's you're talking about Tulane having a great go with John Summerall this year, and then all of a sudden you look up and Mensa's gone to Duke, and now your star running back's gone. So it was all Tulane could do to hold on to Summerall as some jobs came open, namely North Carolina, and they did, but some of the players left, and that's when you're a good program at that level, you're a feeder school.
I was going to say that.
You're a feeder school. So that's just the situation. They're uptown at Tulane, so they'll have to find a lot of production from elsewhere.
All right. So Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated reported during the Amazon Prime broadcast of Thursday Night Football that the Bears and Pete Carroll have mutual interests and that a conversation between the two could be happening soon. The 73-year-old is currently serving as an advisor to the Seahawks. Take it or leave it.
I would leave it. I just don't really need to hire a 73-year-old head coach.
Exactly.
I don't mean to be disparaging, and I realize that the professional football is a little bit of a different grind than college football, where you're constantly recruiting and roster building. Pro football, you handle your roster building in the offseason from February through April, and then you get ready to coach football team. But Pete Carroll's youthful, he's exuberant, he's got a ton of energy, and he's been incredibly successful as an NFL head coach. But I would lean more towards a guy who's 45 than 75. That's where my head is.
Especially with a young quarterback, where we just talked about Caleb and his pits and valleys and all that.
Yeah.
So next, last but not least, the 2 leading vote getters for Offensive Rookie of the Year is currently Jaden Daniels and Brian Thomas Jr.
Yep.
Serious issue with that LSU team not making the college football playoffs. Take it or leave it.
I will take it. But they fielded the worst defense in the history of the school. So that's just the way it goes. When you're atrocious on defense, you're not going to win many championships, and LSU was atrocious on defense. So bad stuff. More breaking news. We're with 3 minutes to go. Harold Perkins is coming back. LSU he leased that on social media. He's going to come back and play. So that's another add to LSU's team, and furthers my point that this LSU team is going to be picked by a lot of people to make the college football playoff. You still got to deal with Georgia in the SEC. I don't think Texas is going anywhere immediately. You know that Alabama's going to have a lot of talented players, and we'll see what Ole Miss can do in the portal as well. Vols too, but LSU is going to be in that mix. They've got a lot of talent coming in and some talent now coming back. I think when Brian Kelly said that some guys were coming back, I kind of leaned to Emory Jones in that instance, but Harold Perkins is that dude today, and Garrett Nussmeier certainly is a big deal coming back. So big announcement there from LSU. I'm certain that Musso will have a lot more on that. We'll talk about Harold Perkins a ton moving forward, because that's a guy that generated a ton of discussion this year. They didn't really find a way to get him overly involved in what was going on, and then had the ACL injury. So we'll see how he returns. But good news for LSU to get Harold Perkins back in Baton Rouge. So big announcement for the Tigers. All right, this could be my final show. I just been told that my wife has purchased Mega Millions tickets. The jackpot is over $1 billion. So we're talking about the actual payout, $500K in cash. Take taxes out, it'd be about $240 million to me once we win. And I gotta say, if I get $240 million, probably not gonna do the show next week. But we'll see. To be determined. I'll be sure to let y'all know how the drawing goes. My record in the lottery is not strong. I have never won it. I usually buy tickets about twice a year, so that hurts my odds. The fact that I don't buy tickets hurts my odds, and then I just don't ever win. So. But I'm I wanted y'all to know that it could be my last show if, in fact,
Well, you
we
can't
do.
tell us that, and we can't get 1,000 or something. You come up with 200-something million.
I think y'all will be compensated if I get $240 million.
Okay,
I don't know how
okay.
much. I'm not willing to tell you that it's going to be
Beggars
an
can't be
astronomical
choosers.
amount, but I might get you a gift here or there. I'm going to be in a good mood if I get $240 million bucks. I'll probably have a tea time pretty quickly after that, and it probably won't be in America. So,
respectfully, I do not disagree. Just do not give me a Spencer Rattler jersey. That's all I ask.
I will not do that. I will not do
Don't
that.
do that. Thank you.
All right, that's it for us. If you missed any of the show, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. You can search the Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. Certainly do appreciate it. Certainly on YouTube as well. Hunt on LSU, Hunt on Saints, and of course Hoops with Hunt as well. Open the show today talking about LSU's offensive line in this game against Baylor coming up and what that's going to look like. I think it's probably the most interesting storyline of this Kinder's Texas Bowl. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com is with us at 1:15. Got you ready for the NFL weekend to come at 1:30. My thoughts on Jim Laranaga's comments and him bailing on his team in the middle of a season at 1:45. Then LSU basketball against Mississippi Valley State. They've won 2 games against schools you've probably never heard of, and when they play the schools you have heard of, it doesn't go well. I don't think it's going to go very well for them on Sunday, but I gave you some things to look for with this LSU basketball team at 2 o'clock. And then certainly we got you ready for Saints Raiders, who will come at you at 1 o'clock or noon on Sunday. So go check that out on demand wherever you find your sound. Hope everybody has a safe and wonderful weekend. Been kind of a weird week, and we got another one coming next week with the game on Tuesday and no show on Wednesday. But overall, I had a great weekend, and check everything out on demand. Musso is going to drive you home on After Further Review. We're back Monday, same time, same place, for another edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, fantastic to work with from an insurance perspective. They have a core belief over there at the Highland Insurance Group that you should trust your insurance broker the same way you trust your CPA, the same way that you trust your lawyers. When things go poorly, you need somebody in your corner, and that's what insurance is for. I know all we think about is the front end with the premiums, but claims are important. What's covered and how those claims are handled. And at the Highland Insurance Group, they're an independent broker, and they will make sure that you're placed in the proper market for your business. You never know when that cyber breach is coming or how expensive that could be. You never know when that bad auto accident is going to happen or the injury that comes. You never know when there's a lawsuit. But you need to know that you're covered when it does happen. And the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help you out with that. They handle your property and casualty, certainly can help you handle your group or employee benefits as well. They're online at HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com.